Hey everybody, meteorologist Brad Panovich here. We're tracking Erin. It has gotten larger overnight, much wider system, also getting stronger as we're speaking. Now, the width of the storm, the clouds go pretty far, but the actual strongest winds are probably right in here. So the outflow, which is the air coming out of the top of the storm, is spreading clouds out in all directions. So I had someone real good question. I kind of observed, oh, it looks like the clouds are going this way. Yeah, in the upper levels, the winds are spreading out in all this direction. We call that an upper level anticyclone. That actually vents the storm. But in the low levels, the wind is flowing in like this. And when you're tracking these storms, you don't track those high clouds. What you're tracking is this center. You see that the eye, it's actually pretty clear to see. You can actually see it's right where the hurricane center had it. It's moving just north. And if anything, it's staying right in the middle of the cone, which is what we expect. So the forecast track takes the center right here. Now, that's the center. You can see how much bigger this is than the center. So remember, the cone tracks the center of the storm. So if this continues tracking in its general direction, the storm itself, the impacts will clip the Outer Banks. You see that right there? That's why we know it's going to clip the Outer Banks. So that's why we're going to see some impacts here, tropical storm conditions out here, and the overwash and surge is going to be huge. Now, you're wondering, why is this thing going to go west? I'm really scared it's going to go west. It's not. It's not. Look what's going on here. We've got two low pressure systems in front. These are pushing this way. It can't come this way. Everything's going from west to east. So the further north it goes, the less chance it has of going west. It is going to get pushed out to sea. So there's very little chance of it coming back to the west. So let me show you a wider view here. This is a great view from the GOES 19 imagery, high res. You see that circulation. And again, you can see it moving almost due north, almost maybe a little east of north. I think it's more a wobble, but it's basically moving due north. You could see that right now, and the eye forming. Now, what's cool about this, we can look at the mesoscale sector, which is a little bit higher res. We're going to zoom in on this, and one of the things I'm going to add to this, I'm going to add the wind speeds, because one of the things we can see is wind speeds within this, and I'm going to put these speeds in here. We'll put the direction in the barbs, and you could see where the strongest winds are. So you see these strong winds in like the purple. So how far out do those winds go? You can see the outer edge, I'm gonna move this right here, is probably right about here of the tropical storm force winds. Hurricane force winds are probably mostly in there, but there is a band right there of tropical storm force winds. So it's offshore. There's the Outer Banks. I'm going to highlight them, and the Cape Lookout. But you get an idea. That's kind of where the strongest winds are. You see them just offshore. They're not quite there yet, but they will eventually be pushing inland with time. So the forecast track remains pretty consistent. We expect it to push off to the north and east, and eventually move out to sea late tomorrow into Friday. But the worst impacts are starting to come up. So I've been watching this product quite a bit. Excuse me, quite a bit. Kind of shows you the maximum water level. Sorry, swallowed the wrong way. I got to drink some coffee. But you can see the water levels there, especially late tomorrow into tomorrow night. And the high tide cycle is going to be key. I'm going to grab some coffee there. You can see where we are right now, kind of right there. We're at low tide, so the water's pretty low. And once the high tide occurs, which like it's going to happen this evening, that's when I expect water to go really high. You see some of these levels. Another great product, and I shared this on my page, was this product, which shows where we expect overwash. So I'm going to move this over so it's a little bit easier to see. But I really do like this product. So this is showing all these areas that have the red. That's where we expect potential overwash, or orange. The yellow, potential beach dune erosion. So you see some of these areas around the Outer Banks. We do expect some overwash and inundation. Rodanthe, and then going north, you could see heading up this way. And what's great about this product is it shows you kind of where the dune is in relation to these areas. So for instance, we'll go out the Hatteras here, and I'll move the map, I'll move the graphic back over, and I'll move my head. But you can kind of see a timeline here showing the water coming up late tomorrow and it going over the dune. And when the dune turns red or orange, that means there's overwash. And I'll back this up. You can see right there, we expect overwash right there a couple times. So high tide coming up this evening, we expect overwash. And then tomorrow it goes down, and then high tide coming up tomorrow. So those are the timelines for like looking at. So the high tide cycle, and this is Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, by the way, is going to be later this evening, right around 6-7 o'clock, and then again tomorrow, roughly in the morning time, around 12Z, So we expect a surge of water tonight and then again tomorrow morning. And that could go for pretty much anywhere on the coast. I'm going to move my head out of the way. But you can see, I'm going to look at the regional view here, and you can see where we expect some of that overwash in many of these areas. So that's what we'll be watching as we go into the evening hours. Quick look at the Surf Check camera, which is a great site. If you want to check the cameras, this is on Hatteras right now. You can see the waves. Again, they're not at high tide yet, but look how high that water is right now. Another great location I look at. I'm gonna refresh this. Thanks to the Outer Banks Voice, they put all the DOT cameras together. We can kind of see that's where traffic is not an issue. But Highway 12 gets close to the coast here. This is in the canal zone. You can see it looks like a TV crew is out there. They've got bulldozers working, trying to reinforce that water protection with the dunes. You can see we scroll down. You can see Buxton. We expect some overwash during high tide, and then another view here near Hatteras Village. So this kind of shows you what's happening out there on the coast and what we're expecting. Now, let's look at the Atlantic as a whole, because I'm already getting questions about the next system. I will tell you, the next system, there's two tropical waves out there. None of them look like they're going to impact us in the next 7 to 10 days. So this is the tropical depression possibilities in the next 10 days. And you could see, obviously, Erin clear cut going out. Our next wave right here looks like it's going to stay right behind Erin. And then here's our third wave, which is still out there. And by 10 days, it's only right here. So there's no immediate threats beyond Erin right now. This system around here, this is probably a false alarm and not a big deal. So just a heads up, there's really nothing out there right now to concern yourself with beyond Erin. We really should be focused on Erin. And the good news is it is going to stay out to sea and not make a direct impact. The bad news, tidal flooding. So high tide tonight and high tide tomorrow morning, those are the two time frames we're going to see the most water. Now, as far as winds are concerned, let me quickly show you the winds. I don't think the winds will be a big impact, but I just want to show you what they are just the same. All right, these are the maximum wind speeds forecasted from the National Blend of Models, basically looking at all of the data combined. And you can see, yeah, the strongest winds are staying offshore, but for the Outer Banks, it's really close. Now, I'm showing the whole East Coast just for folks that are watching from outside of our region can see it. But I do want to show you states. I'm going to zoom in on North Carolina for folks in North Carolina, my residents here. And you can see the Outer Banks getting just clipped there. Let's show a different perspective. I'm going to zoom in even closer. We're going to look at what the actual local weather service offices are forecasting. Kind of the same thing. So you can see the maximum gusts aren't as high as you might think. I think 50, 60 on the Outer Banks is definitely within the realm of possibility, but sustained, you're probably looking at 30 to 40. So the winds, aren't really that big of a deal on the coast. It's what's happening offshore. Those winds offshore are the ones doing all of the work. Remember, they are pushing a lot of water. In fact, that water, let me see if I can throw the wind barbs up here. But that's what's producing all the wind. I mean, that wind offshore is causing the problem. So yeah, the winds are super strong out here, forcing that water towards the coast. The winds on the coast aren't that big a deal. It's what's happening out here that is pushing water in waves, and those waves could be absolutely huge. So far, if we look at the wave heights, I haven't seen any updated totals out here, numbers out here, but so far it looks like in the 7 to 10 foot range just offshore. So that will give you an idea. And looking at the Cape Hatteras, the waves are coming up, but they're more swells. The huge waves aren't there yet. So I'll keep an eye on it, but if you're in the Outer Banks, you should have full precautions and be ready to go. Again, high tide this evening, high tide tomorrow morning. Those are the two time frames we're worried about for high water on the coast.